morning from the Astrology studio here in Kingston, New York. I'm Eric Francis Coppolino, your friendly neighborhood astrologer, here with the STARCAST Planet Waves TV edition to accompany the monthly horoscope for March 2024. I've been writing horoscopes all week, and I do not have it in me to write an article today, so I'm going to offer you a video STARCAST and tell you a little bit about the upcoming charts. And as usual, in my absent-minded professor mode, I could take you further into the month of March. I have a lot of charts on my desk, including and especially this one, the All-American Eclipse, and tell you a little bit about the forthcoming full moon, followed by the forthcoming new moon. That gets us through most of Pisces time. Sun has been in Pisces now for 3 days. That glorious time of year when we are at the delta of Venus, the very end of the zodiac. I am working on the readings for the Eye of the Centaur these days. I have started recording the videos. There are 2 parts to the spring reading. We've done a spring reading every year, probably for the last 10 years, a spring video reading. They've been very successful. And this time around, because we have a very special spring season coming, for which today's STARCAST will offer a prelude, I am doing a 2-part spring reading. Part 1 is going to be the 12 signs and rising signs, and part 2 is a special take on Chiron that includes an hour presentation that I did. It's already posted about the nature of Chiron, basically an introduction to Chiron that will work for beginners and advanced students. As well as yesterday, I began Chiron through the signs, my first ever presentation on Chiron through the zodiac signs, based on 30 years of work around here at Planet Waves. We like to get the word in before we get the word out. So that will be will be posted as they are done. So they are being posted now. Again, this is the 2024 spring reading, Eye of the Centaur. All right, so here we are today. I'm recording on Thursday morning. It is our usual production day, Planet Waves. I am going for a quiet production day today so I can keep doing Eye of the Centaur and getting ahead on horoscopes. All right, so we're coming up on the lunar events of Pisces time. The first one of those is the full moon in the sign Virgo. As you probably know, when the sun is in a sign, the full moon will always happen in the opposite sign. There's no exceptions to that. That's the whole point of the full moon, is you have moon opposite sun. Here's a little bit what that looks like. I don't know if these charts mean anything to you, or you look at them and you glaze over. I try to make them pretty and interesting and bring in the astronomy to it, but let's take a look at this chart. All right, so here is the moon in Virgo. You can see that says Virgo there, right there, and it's exactly opposite the sun in Pisces. You can tell it's opposite because this is 0523 and the sun is 0523, and I'm finding it's easier to read numbers backwards than it is to have the chart be flipped. I'm using a different video recording program today just to try it out. So moon opposite sun, that is the full moon. Now, you'll notice here that in the middle of the circle, there are all these weird lines. These weird lines point to aspects. And the reason that the full moon is not one of those aspects is one of my old teachers, Dave Rell, very intelligent guy, great astrologer, very early in my career said, if you're going to draw the aspects into the middle of the circle, draw the ones you can't easily see. Those are things like sesquiquadrates and quintiles and quindeciles and semi-squares and sesquiquadrates. They're a little more difficult, or a lot more difficult to see than an ordinary opposition. Look, that's an opposition. There you go. So that's what we have. Now, full moon represents a peak of the energy, meaning that the tides are higher and that people stay up late at night and the moon is brighter, and so there is a peak. And the full moon is the moon to one side of the earth and the sun to the other side of the Earth. Moon opposite sun means the Earth is in the middle. And so we get this moment of maximum polarization. But we get the polarization in the style of the signs that are involved. And so in this case, the signs involved are mutable signs. They tend to be more flexible, though people are stubborn. They tend to be more flexible in nature. They tend to oscillate between fixed and cardinal. That's actually the real meaning of mutable, is it has some properties of fixed and some properties of cardinal. And I think as a result, some properties that are distinctly mutable, a kind of adaptability. But that may be a binary adaptability to either march ahead in the style of a cardinal sign like Aries, or to relax and have a cup of tea in the style of a fixed sign like Taurus. What is interesting is that this chart describes certain events that are brewing, and one of those events is the, how do we get this here? Is the sun approaching Saturn. That happens on the 28th. So that's about 5 days after this full moon. And Sun approaching a conjunction to Saturn is got some drive to it. Some may feel that it's oppressive and heavy and burdensome, and like they can't get out from under this energy and sense of responsibility. I am a Saturn lover. I think your astrologer is not worth their salt if they're not able to help you work with Saturn, this thing that people tend to either avoid or get into confrontations with. They avoid. Most people will avoid any serious responsibility, and some will try to avoid all responsibility. And then soon enough, it catches up with them, and then they suddenly have. I heard a story yesterday of someone who ran up $3,000 in tolls using the pay by tolls license plate system newly installed on the New York State Thruway. How is it possible to run up $3,000 in tolls and fees? You have to have absolutely no Saturn in your chart, which is impossible. So it must be hidden away somewhere or something. But anyway, that's what happens when you're not able to work with Saturn, is you run up $3,000 in easy pass fees. Okay, so the good part here is that we are in a time where it's going to be very helpful toward getting things done. So choose some difficult things to accomplish now. Things maybe that you avoided. Things that are on that need to be done by a certain time. Things that involve some form of accountability. You'll be in maximum form with that. The conjunction between the Sun and Saturn, I think, is on the 29th. I've got that chart here somewhere. If you could see this desk, you'd laugh. I've got pretty much all the charts going out through the spring, or many of them anyway. But the rest of the month, we have this influence. So take advantage of it. Really, it's a good thing and a helpful thing. Another thing that we've got going on right now is this interesting cluster in Aquarius. Now, I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago when I said that we're having our first real-time test of Pluto in Aquarius. That article is available on the homepage, planetwaves.net. If you're watching this on some remote platform, you're not a subscriber, you're not on the mailing list, you can find that article. Just go to planetwaves.net, scroll down. It's like the fifth article down. And what I meant by a real-time test is that when Pluto changes signs, which it has done recently, there are effects in society that are sometimes immediately visible. Now, Pluto entering Capricorn in 2008 immediately had the effect of seeming to precipitate a financial crisis. And then one day Pluto enters Capricorn, and then it's all over the news, wall to wall, 24/7. And the next thing you know, this company you've never heard of, AIG, American Insurance Group or something like that, is being bailed out to the tune of untold billions of dollars to make sure the entire economy doesn't collapse, because somehow the entire economy was teetering on the success of one insurance company, AIG. Whose fucking insurance company was it? With Pluto in Aquarius, I don't think we're getting a dramatic single event like that. And the world has changed quite a bit since 2008, because in 2008, at least you could somewhat tell one day from another. Now, if you're looking at the internet, it's very difficult to even tell one day from another, because in 2008, we were not completely subsumed in the digital environment like we are today, like SpongeBob SquarePants living at the bottom of the digital ocean, where all these antics are going on, and everyone's basically clueless. So the real-time test comes in the form of inner planets making conjunctions to Pluto, making Pluto, bringing it closer in, making it more real, making it more vivid. And you can see that Venus and Mars have both made conjunctions to Pluto. Their numbers are higher than Pluto's. That's, the conjunction was in the past. Nobody's retrograde, and that numbers are higher. But the question is, what's that about? Now, I fell in love with astrology really first as a horoscope writer, which is mundane astrology, and then 5 minutes later as a mundane astrologer doing the astrology of news events and watching the affairs of the world. And I'm having a hard time corresponding the astrology to the events of the world, because everything is so completely and utterly kaleidoscopic these days. It must be very upsetting to be riding along on this, having no concept or clue what is going on. And what is going on is that essentially we're all living inside the robot. And so Venus and Mars and Aquarius maybe are offering some insight into what it's like to be here inside the robot, where maleness, Mars, and femaleness, Venus, are completely digitized. And in the digital realm, there is no gender. I can have certain male affects and female affects and whatever, but I really don't bring my pheromones and my hormones into this environment. And frankly, neither do you. You bring like the image of gender, the image of sex, but you don't bring your sex into the digital realm. You don't bring your body into the digital realm. The I'm speaking to you is completely and entirely an illusion of electricity and pixels. And so I think we have to ask ourselves what the effect is of being in this environment so much and then trying to live and relate to one another in the physical world. There was an episode of Star Trek, the second series, with Captain Picard, who to me will always be the captain of the Enterprise. And there was the only discussion I've ever heard in Star Trek about the effects of being beamed up and beamed down to the planet, where their atoms are basically taken apart and turned to energy and then put back together on the surface of the planet. And Star Trek makes it look so casual. Ooh, let's beam up, let's beam down, let's beam across the ship, let's beam the Klingon ambassador on board, et cetera, and so on. But they were actually there were characters expressing reservation about being beamed up and beamed down all day long, and one of them said, "I really don't like this that much. I'd prefer to stay on board the Enterprise. I only do this when I have to." But we are getting beamed up and beamed down constantly in the digital realm. There's no avoiding it or escaping it, and I include in that being guided by GPS. The robot comes right to your car and tells you exactly what to do and where to go. Stay in the middle 2 lanes. Okay, so this aspect pattern, and look, maybe you can tell me what's going on for you about it, but it includes Venus and Mars square Jupiter. So here's an exaggeration point. When things start to line up with Jupiter, especially by square, conjunction, and opposition, they tend to go out of proportion a little bit. They stand up against the background. They become more salient. They become more obvious. So that is something that we've got going on here. Now, another thing happening is, let's see if this is completely backwards. One last thing in terms of the immediate current aspects is that the sun is talking to this group in Capricorn. Now, this is a cluster of minor planets. I'm sure you've heard of them all: Pholus, Ixion, Ceres, Cupido, and Quaoar. Like, the hell is that doing there, and why are you wasting our time with it? Well, there's something going on there. That what there is a kind of a wormhole into the ancestral realm going on with that. That group, that cluster, all of those planets in one way, shape, or form are either ancestral or directly related to matters of family. So Ceres, the new edition and transient one, they're all slow movers except for Ceres, which orbits in just 4 years, so it's pretty quick, is passing through the territory. And I would say maybe cook a meal that your great-grandparents would love. Imagine if you were making dinner for your great-grandparents, maybe if you didn't know them, your grandparents, and imagine what they would like to eat and cook that meal and invite the ancestors to dinner. I've been talking a lot lately about this book that I'm reading, which by Julian Jaynes, published 1977, which talks about how it's about the creation of the gods, the emergence of the gods, and it's really quite a phenomenal book that Marshall McLuhan panned in a review for the Toronto Globe and Mail. Andrew, thank you for sending me this review. I love Marshall McLuhan. I'm taking everything he said on board, but I'm still learning a lot from this book by Julian Jaynes. And the first gods were ancestors, i.e., parents and grandparents, who were treated as if they were still alive, and their voices were hallucinated. They were imagined. I've got a picture of Yogananda up on my altar there. He's kind of an imaginary figure. Now, I don't doubt that Yogananda may be quite alive and well on the higher planes, but to conceive of higher planes requires a lot of imagination and a kind of hallucination. And this is how the gods were hallucinated into existence. So we've got all these gods talking to us in the astrological chart, and I'm telling you what I think they have to say. Now, if you haven't noticed, I'm very cautious about what I think they have to say. I am not trying to put words in their mouth. I am doing my best to actually hear something which is another form of hallucination and make it interesting and make it helpful. We've been in 18 minutes into this video. I'm going to forego a look at the new moon chart. I will be back with a look at the new moon chart. I've got the monthly horoscope for you today. It is beautiful. I worked on this. It took 3 days to write the monthly horoscope, and I wrote next week's weekly along with it because it's much easier. That is available to subscribers. Thank you for subscribing to Planet Waves. Genuinely, there's a lot of things to subscribe to. And the truth is, most of them take from you and don't give to you. They take your emotional energy. They deceive you in some way, like many of these Substacks. They provide an approach to astrology that is utterly simplistic, unsophisticated, that an intelligent person should not be able to stand for a second. And I try to give you love and a deep view of things, and my sometimes demented sense of humor. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the horoscope. And bye for now.